You're in a supermarket. A child drops to the floor, crying, screaming, refusing to move, and within seconds, the adult gives in. Not because they want to, because they've been outplayed. That's the part no one says out loud. Children don't just learn behavior, they learn control, and sometimes faster than adults realize. We like to think childhood is simple, innocent, pure. But psychologically, it's one of the most aggressive learning phases of human life. A child is not trying to be good or bad. A child is running experiments, constantly. What happens if I cry louder? What happens if I wait? What happens if I smile right now? Every reaction you give becomes data, and over time, that data turns into strategy. Here's why this matters. By the age of 5, a child's brain has already reached about 90% of its adult size, not maturity, but capacity. That means they are absorbing patterns at a rate you will never match again in your life. They don't need logic. They don't need language. They just need outcomes, and outcomes shape behavior faster than explanations ever will. Let's break the system. A child tries something. A reaction comes back. The brain asks one question: did it work? If yes, repeat. If no, adjust. That's it. No morality, no ethics, no long-term thinking, just optimization. This is where it gets uncomfortable, because sometimes the most effective behaviors are not the most honest ones. Take crying. Not all crying is emotional. Some of it is tactical. A child quickly learns that different intensities produce different results. Soft crying might get ignored. Loud crying gets attention. Public crying gets immediate action. So what happens? They scale it, not consciously like an adult, but instinctively, because the system rewards escalation. Now add timing into this. Children learn when you're weak, not emotionally weak, situationally weak. When you're tired, when you're in public, when you're busy, that's when resistance is lowest. So behavior shifts. The same request that gets denied at home gets approved in a crowded mall. From the child's perspective, this isn't manipulation, it's pattern recognition. And here's the irony. Adults think they're teaching children, but in many moments, children are training adults. If a tantrum works once, it creates a loop. The child learns this behavior gets results. The adult learns giving in stops the noise. Both sides get rewarded, which means both sides repeat. That's how habits form, not through intention, through reinforcement. Now zoom out. This isn't just about tantrums, it's about identity. Children don't just learn what works, they learn who they need to be to make things work. The cute child gets attention through charm. The quiet child gets safety through silence. The difficult child gets control through resistance. None of this is planned, but over time it solidifies. And once it does, changing it becomes incredibly hard. Here's where most people get it wrong. They assume children understand fairness. They don't. They understand consistency. If the rules change, the system breaks. And when the system breaks, children push harder, because unpredictability creates opportunity. If no sometimes becomes yes, then no doesn't really mean anything. It becomes negotiable. And this is where dark psychology quietly appears, not in a sinister way, but in a functional one. Children begin to test emotional levers: crying, silence, affection, withdrawal. They observe what moves you, and they use it. Again, not with intent to harm, but with intent to succeed. There's also something else happening under the surface: delayed gratification. In one famous experiment, children were given a choice: one reward now or a bigger reward later. Some waited, most didn't. But here's the interesting part. Those who waited often had environments where waiting had worked before. They trusted the system. The others didn't, so they optimized for the present, because in their experience, later wasn't guaranteed. So even patience isn't just a personality trait, it's a learned strategy based on past outcomes. Now think about the long-term implications. A child who learns that pressure gets results becomes an adult who applies pressure. A child who learns that emotions control situations carries that into relationships. A child who learns inconsistency grows up expecting instability. These patterns don't disappear, they evolve. And yet, none of this is malicious. That's the uncomfortable truth. Children aren't manipulative in the way adults are. They're efficient. They remove everything unnecessary and focus only on what works. In a way, they're better behavioral economists than most adults.
No bias, no ego, just results. Which brings us back to that supermarket. That moment wasn't random. It was the result of dozens of previous interactions. Small decisions, small reactions, stacked over time, until one day, the outcome becomes predictable. So the real question isn't, why is the child behaving this way? The real question is, what system taught them that this works? And once you see it like that, it becomes harder to blame the child, and much harder to ignore the pattern. Because if behavior is built on outcomes, then every reaction today is quietly programming tomorrow. And the part no one really talks about is this. If children are constantly learning how to control their environment, then what exactly are they learning about controlling you?